Three Dr. Vegapunks. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host, Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to One Piece, episode 1092. So, yeah, last time we met Dr. Vegapunk Atlas. One of the, I assume, like, not like replicas or anything, but robotic, just robots. One of the robots that the real Dr. Vegapunk created in order to divvy out his work. I presume that is the intent behind it. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all comes into play, especially with the reactions we got at the end there. Obviously, Luffy knows who Vegapunk is. His surprise and shock at that reveal was, you know, palpable. But there was also the reaction from Bonney. Bonnie's like, wait, that's not right. Something's off here. And so now we got to kind of see where her mindset into all of that comes in. So meanwhile, we have the rest of the crew still with Lilith, and Shaka has told her to bring them in and everything. So that's going to be happening. Hopefully we'll have a reuniting of the crew soon. Hopefully they're not split up for too long this time, because that seems to be a thing Oda has been doing a lot of in the post-time skip. Just splitting up the crew for random periods of time just to give them, I guess, more to do. But at the same time, it's like, we don't want to see them split up. We want to see them, you know, fighting together and all. And yeah, by the end of the arcs, they usually do, like Wano. But that might not always be the case. Excuse me. And sometimes we've seen that they've just been split up for a good while, like in Whole Cake, for example. So, yeah. I want to see things just kind of like go back with them all together. At least for the most part. But we still have the question of how many other Vegapunks there are. Because we've got 3 so far. But I believe it said 05 on Atlas. Therefore, there's at least 5 of them. And possibly more. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do going forward. And how they handle a lot of these revelations. Because that seems to be one of the big things right now. Just huge revelations. And it's the start of the final saga, so it makes sense. Makes sense that we'd be getting like big shit like this right off the bat. So now the question kind of just comes down to, now what? What is going to happen next? How is this all going to come to a head? Let's find out. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, we have the truth revealed. But before we get to that, let us talk about the ending here. So, Blackbeard and Law are going to come head to head. Why is Blackbeard after Law? Does he want his devil fruit? Is that his goal here? Or does he just want to take out Law because Law took out, you know, with Kid's help, mind you, Big Mom? I'm not sure what the goal is here. But it's clear, it seems clear that Blackbeard is the one who's after Law. Law and the Heart Pirates, they just want to pass on by. But Blackbeard is clearly not about that. Let me check some things here. I want to see what these devil fruits were for the crew again. Okay, so Jesus Burgess has the strong fruit. I assume that it probably like ups his strength, probably something akin to juicing, I guess you could say. Probably something like that. Then we have Van Auger. Who has the warp fruit. Now, Van Auger is the sharpshooter of the group, basically the equivalent of Usopp. So, warping, presumably, I guess similar to something like Blue Nose Door fruit, except instead of opening a door in space and time, he just, like, teleports. So, I guess probably more, like, akin in terms of visual style to just how Kizaru like dashes by using his light powers and everything. Except there's not going to be like a line of like dashing. He just like pops from one place to another, probably with like a flashlight or something. He has teleportation powers, to put it simply, and that's actually pretty broken for a sniper. For someone in his specific position, that's a pretty strong ability. So after him, we have Doc Q and Stronger. Stronger has the Horse fruit mythical type model Pegasus. Now, I have to check something with that, because I saw that and it's like, I got a little confused. Let me see here. Okay. Okay. So that's the difference here. Okay, so I was thinking back to Pierre from Skypiea. Pierre is Gonfal's bird who ate the Uma no Mi, a Zoan devil fruit that turns Pierre from a bird into a horse. The thing is, in Pierre's horse form, he also has wings and is basically a Pegasus. So I was kind of wondering, like, if this had something to do with that. But no. The bird wings just kind of carry over into this form. But it's just a horse devil fruit. It's not a mythical type. It's not actually a Pegasus devil fruit. So it is different. This is basically like a... This is basically the upgraded model of Pierre's devil fruit. Because Pierre is just the horse fruit. But Stronger is the horse mythical type model Pegasus. So it's the upgraded version, basically. Because Stronger was normally just a regular horse. So this one basically just gives Stronger wings. And then Doc Q has the sick fruit, apparently now. That one, I don't know. Can he, like, make other people sick? That's the only thing I could think of that would make sense. I don't know. The problem with that is, like, devil fruits, like, I mean, so, yeah, devil fruits can affect others. It's not just with awakening and stuff. Maybe, like, anyone he touches, like, will grow sick or something. And maybe he can, like, choose the sickness. It may be, like, kind of like how when Bonney touches someone, she can change their age. She can turn them into, like, a little kid or an old person or something like that. Which we've seen at, like, Shabandi and everything. Something similar to that. So I would assume the sick fruit would obviously then be a Paramecia. I mean, I think most of these are paramecias, to be completely fair. And then we have Blackbeard, of course, who we know what his devil fruits are because he somehow has two. We still don't know the reason for that. I've seen a few different theories regarding that, but nothing is really that strong. Nothing really feels like it could be super accurate. Um, but yeah, we know him. Uh, and they're the only members of the crew that are there right now. So we don't have like Lafitte or Shiryu or San Juan Wolf or anyone like that there with them at the moment. It's a small isolated group of the Blackbeard pirates. But still a pretty strong group. I mean, it's kind of the original ones. It's the original crew. The ones that we saw back in well, pre Skypiea in Jaya. The name was escaping me for a second. Back in Jaya. So we're catching up with them. Though Lafitte was already with them at that point, Lafitte wasn't in Jaya with them. I think Lafitte did appear, like, did come and join them afterwards, though, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Either way, so yeah, that battle is apparently about to start. So that's going to be interesting. Um, and then, following that, we have we have just the rest of the episode focusing on everything else. On top of the food machine, we find there's also a clothing machine, so our heroes get new outfits, at least the ones that are, there. We don't check in on the rest of the crew who are with Lilith at the moment. Atlas runs off to, I guess, do her job, which is violence, whatever that entails. And while continuing to travel through Egghead and excuse me. While continuing to travel through Egghead and discover everything, they end up getting targeted by a pacifista that just happens to be a police officer who's trying to kill them, which is a bit extreme, I think. Considering their crimes are apparently just, dining and dashing and stealing some clothes. It's like, death penalty seems like a bit much for that. But, either way, they didn't know they were supposed to pay. They were not told this by Atlas. They were not told this by the machines. I mean, you could say logically it makes sense, and yeah, sure. But the way Alice introduced the food machine and everything honestly made it seem like it was free, if we're being honest here. It made it seem like it was completely free. And so that's on Atlas. That's her fault. I don't even think that was intentional though, but it is still her fault. So we also got like a little glimpse at all of the different satellites, as they're called. We find out that these robots are called satellites, which is a valid term for this, for Dr. Vegapunk. There are 6 robots in total, and they are each part of Dr. Vegapunk, like, in order to do his jobs and stuff. So, seemingly, I was pretty accurate. CP Aegis Zero are the ones who kind of give us this information and everything. So we know they're going to become involved. And they have a Kuma of their own, who I think is basically the equivalent, based on what we can tell, of the Hancock one. The Seraphim are what they're called. So Let me see. Okay, so going over them all again. Punk 1 is Shaka, who we very briefly saw talking to Lilith. Shaka has like this kind of Daft Punk like helmet on and represents good. Um, then we have Lilith, who represents evil. Edison represents thinker. Okay. So Edison, I guess, is like... Sorry for the sniffling, by the way. Just the cold weather and everything, and now it's snowing, so fun. Have to deal with that again. Edison is thinker, yeah, so probably doing a lot of, like, planning and whatnot. Punk 04 is Pythagoras, who is wisdom. Don't know what the job there would be. And you have thinking and wisdom. Seems kind of, like, redundant, doesn't it? Atlas is violence. And then we have Punk 06, which is York, who is greed. And that one kind of throws me off big time. Not only because York looks different than in the opening. In the opening, she looks like, you know, thinner and more like, not really curvaceous or anything, but pretty average, I would say, for especially for One Piece body shapes for women. But here it shows her as like being quite large and round. So it's very clearly the same character, but I wonder if like maybe she has two different forms, or maybe she's like Luffy and Bonney and Chopper in this episode and just eats a lot. With greed, that could very much be the case. So yeah. So we have the 6 satellites, and all of them are Vegapunk. Like, that is entirely accurate. So when each of them introduce themselves as Vegapunk, they're telling the truth. They're not lying or, like, hiding information or anything like that. Now, what Kaku is saying here is that Vegapunk split himself into 6. So the way I'm kind of viewing it is that Vegapunk created these 6 robots and put like a piece of himself in a way into each of them. I don't know how that works. Vegapunk is a genius scientist, so I'm sure he could figure it out, but does it have something to do with the lineage factor or something? Maybe, like, imbued his lineage factor into all of them? That's the only thing I could think of. Otherwise, I just genuinely don't know. I'm sure we'll get information on that. I'm sure we'll find out. But still. I'm genuinely very interested to see what they do with that. And how that is all handled. So I'm definitely curious to meet these other Vegapunks we have yet to meet, and to see exactly what they do and how they handle things comparatively to the ones we've already met. It's gonna be one hell of an interesting arc. I can just already tell. It's gonna be very unique compared to others, which I'm all about. But upon seeing the pacifista cop, Bonney is overcome with emotion and reveals to everyone that her father is Bartholomew Kuma. And like I said in the reaction, this is something I knew about. Like I've said before, One Piece fans are amongst the worst when it comes to spoilers. They just don't give a shit. And this was something I had already found out. Again, I don't know every detail. I'm going to keep saying this every time something like this does come up that I do know about. I don't know details. I don't know, like, context behind things and everything. I just know the basic core thing itself. I knew that Bonney was Kuma's daughter. That's the gist of it. There's a couple other things, of course, that I know coming up, but I don't know context behind it. Like, I don't know, for example, who Bonnie's mother is. I'll just tell you that right off the bat. I know that Kuma is her father. I knew that for quite a while now. I don't know who her mother is at all. So, that's something I'm blind on. If that's revealed, I assume it probably will be, but with this series, honestly, who knows, actually, because a lot of characters only have, like, one parent revealed. Like, Luffy, I mean. And Dragon wasn't even revealed to be his parents until the end of post-Water 7 and all. So, you gotta take that into account, too. Now, we see Bonney break down and start to cry seeing this pacifista, just like she did in Marineford, like I mentioned in the reaction. During the Marineford arc, there's a part where everyone at Shabandi is watching the action. And it shows the pacifistas, you know, attacking and getting involved in the war. Bonney is one of those at Shabandi who is currently watching on the giant screens, and you see her start to cry. I believe even her crew asks her at that point, like, what's going on? Are you okay? What's happening? And she kind of brushes it off. We never found out at that time what that was about. But when you find out this information that Kuma is her father, it makes perfect sense. It is perfectly clicking into place. And you kind of have to believe, because of that, Oda... This is one thing that Oda did plan ahead on. Because Oda is one of those mangaka who... Some things are very meticulously planned ahead. Others are just by the seat of his pants. The Seven Warlords were a last-minute addition, for example. But there's a lot of stuff that was planned well ahead of time. And it seems like this is probably one of them. Considering the fact that that he added that into, you know, Marineford. And even if it wasn't in the manga, because I never got that far into the manga, even if it's not in the manga and that's anime only, that means it was still known about when that part of the anime came out, which was still a long time ago. So Oda had still, like, you know, figured that out well before shit truly went down. Like, at that point in Marineford, in the anime, the manga was probably, like, not even at the time skip yet. So, think about that. But yeah, so she had mentioned before that her father was turned into a cyborg and everything. And I believe I said it last episode as well, that it's like, it feels pretty obvious who she's talking about. But we have our confirmation here. And we see how upset seeing the pacifistas and all makes her. Which honestly is fair. Like, her father was turned into a cyborg, and we know how tragic Kuma's story is. And so, we get to see how this affects his daughter now. We get to see it from a different perspective than we had before. Because we saw how it affected his friends with the Revolutionary Army. Like, even just recently we've seen that. But now we see it with his daughter, and it adds a different layer to it. It adds an entirely new set of feelings, set of emotions. And I think that's good, because it's a different kind of emotion for sure. It definitely would not and should not come across as the same kind of sorrow. I'm wondering if next episode, if we're going to get a lot more of the backstory, or if they're going to save that for now. Because, like I said, I don't know context and information. I just know the basic core element of it. So, I definitely want to know more about this entire thing going on. But I'm glad that we're starting to delve into a lot of important things. Um, Kuma has been like kind of this big mystery and this big thing we've needed to solve for a long time, and now we're delving into it. So yeah. Um, Also, by the way, I just remembered during the reverie we saw Bonney was trying to sneak into Marijois and saw Kuma there and everything, and she shed a tear at that point as well. That's when she was like, disguised as I believe Connie. Funny enough, I believe that was the name, and it was just her as an old woman using her devil fruit power. Um, Funny enough, I think that is the name she went with, which is silly because it's literally like a letter off, but and not even like a completely different letter. It's literally like one letter off. Like you go from B to C. Um, but yeah, she was there. She saw Kuma, who was at the time being ridden by, I believe, by Charlos's father, Saint Roswald, I think his name was, something like that. So he was being ridden though by the celestial dragon, and Bonney managed to see this, and this obviously now has led into Kuma being back with the Revolutionary Army, having been rescued and everything. But Sabo is, who knows what's going on with him right now. But Kuma, for the time being, is back with them at least. Who knows how long that will last, because Kuma's, not himself right now. But still. So this revelation kind of raises a bunch of questions, especially with how this is going to go. Because Kuma's obviously going to be important to all of this, now that we're getting this family connection. I'm very, very invested to see where this goes next. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of One Piece? Let me know down in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.